Shall we?
We shall.
All right. Hey, everyone. Excuse me. I can
I'm
hear
getting
that.
excited.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
you
trying to
can't because
talk. All
it's.
I hear is.
All right, I'll shut up.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Brotherhood Project. It is another Monday. We are uploading 2 weeks in a row after we took some time off there for a little bit, but we are back. Last week we had on John Tibbs. So if you missed that one, go and check that one out. It was one for the record books for the Brotherhood Project podcast history record book that we don't keep. We might start after last week. It was a good show. But today we are having another guest. It's me, Austin Traxel, co-hosting with Philip Salmon, and our guest is a longtime friend of both of us, but especially Phil. They grew very close in college. And Phil, you want to introduce our guest a little bit?
So, if you have ever had a situation when you feel like you're Batman and you can't have a Robin and you just need another Batman, so it's Batman and Batman hanging out. That would be Will Turner and I. So Will and Turner and I are great friends, going on close to, I want to say, 8 years now. And we have done so much. We've experienced a lot, and he's a really good friend of mine. He's got married last year. I think for me, it's great to have him on the podcast. But most importantly, he was my original co-host on the Will and Phil show, which is a legendary show that we produced, edited, and published on all platforms.
Yes.
No, it would be pretty funny if we had a research of Will and Phil show. But ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and honor to introduce Will Turner.
Hey, thanks guys. What an intro.
We're getting better at it, but as we kind of ask all of our guests, really we just want to get things rolling, get things going, but kind of I won't say it as delicate as I don't know if that's the word, but I won't say it as proper as Austin says it because he says it really well. But what is your, like, who are you? What are you? And what are some things that kind of gives you the platform to kind of share? Like, what's your background?
Okay. Let's see. So I'm a computational math major from Asbury, and I do programming for my work. I think as far as like who I am, I think I'm like a Christ follower, and I really value my relationships with my friends and family, and try to balance keeping up with them while also trying to get everything done, which can be difficult. And I'm a pretty big nerd when it comes to technology and science and all that kind of stuff. And I like deep thinking about different things. So I guess that's me.
Are you a programmer for a specific company, or are you doing freelance?
I work for IntelliSurvey, and we make surveys for other companies. So kind of both, but I work for a company.
That's cool. I just had a quick question, like based off of your interest in technology. What parts of technology right now are you actively like super interested in, or like keeping up with or researching? Like, what things are making you excited right now?
Oh, there's several things. I think the longest running one is my interest in phones, and specifically the photography that goes with phones. I remember several years ago I ran across a patent that Apple had for like an optical zoom inside a phone, and then just the past like year, Oppo and Samsung and some of the other ones have started putting optical zoom in their phones, which I got really excited about with like the periscope cameras. But I also like following Tesla and SpaceX and anything that has to do with graphene or carbon nanotubes,
Mhm.
like the Wonder materials. So
Very
yeah,
cool.
there's a lot.
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, listening to this on Monday, hopefully we launched that rocket into space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, got postponed. Have you watched any of their actual launches without the people, where it's all automated basically?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so you can go online and they have this really cool production of like they'll walk you through and they have all these 3D animations and they have like I don't know if it's like GoPros or what strapped to the rockets.
Huh.
But there was one where they they had two rockets land at the same time and it was literally like watching the future. It was crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I watched that live stream all day. Was it Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday? And yeah, I got right up to like 4:30,
Uh-huh.
and they're like, "Oh, there's a little bit of weather. We're not gonna do it. We can do it in 10 minutes, but we can't. So we're not gonna do it." Dang,
Man,
there's like 2 million people watching on YouTube.
man, what disappointment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but so yeah, I think it's the Phil and Will show, not the Will and Phil
Uh-huh.
show. Yeah,
Yeah.
Phil is just he's on vacation right now. He
I'm
is just taking life as fast as he wants.
I am taking it fast and far in the wrong direction. This is going to be a rough time. No, I actually did not catch that myself. I was saying the Will and Phil show because it is the Phil and Will show, which I'm glad that you guys would point that out because I kind of am ashamed of
Yeah,
my
you'll hear
my
that back
upbringing.
later, and you'll be like, "Dang it!
You ruined the entire show for
Get
everybody.
to intro my friend, and I screwed it up." But the
I
Phil and
failed.
Will show, I mean, you guys did it like once every like 3 months, or like was those all separate seasons? Like, how many seasons were on the show?
Yeah, I guess it was all like it was really sporadic. It was just like random
Yeah,
whatever. And usually how it started we would just grab some random person's phone and then film it and then they
yep.
would upload it to like Facebook and then we'd like grab it from there.
Yeah,
So
it
it
was
was
really a show like no other production that like we've never seen before.
It showed no effort. I think we had like maybe one person like get like we would record that video on their phone. They're like, we'll edit it, and then we'll post it. And we're like, we really don't care if you edit it. You can just post it. we're not ashamed of what we say all the time. No,
Yes.
I think it was a lot of fun doing those. I think growing up with doing the musicals, which is where Turner and I really got to know each other pretty well over the years. At first, we knew so many people, just connecting with people there, and we were just fascinated by just running around and stealing people's phones and starting, those videos. I had a good time doing it. I don't know if the people who we were stealing their phones had a good time, but
I don't know. Some of them were pretty excited when they found a Phil and Will show on their phone.
yeah. Maybe some people have a video of us doing an episode, and it's just their prized possession. You never know. Maybe they still have it. So yeah, I kind of see it as like each episode is its own season. Unless it's like, some people. I think there's some people who have like multiple episodes because like we stole their phones. Like we kind of started targeting people.
Yeah.
So
I heard CBS made an offer on the show. You guys turned it down.
Yeah, it was too much. It was too much. They're offering us about $100,000
Yeah, per episode,
per minute.
per minute. That's awesome.
No. I think one thing that's really interesting, Will, that you said, you kind of talked about your interest in deep learning, and I kind of thought about AI for a moment there, because it's always this ever growing, endless, like deep thinking. It's developing new avenues and roads and routes, so that it can better respond to certain issues that our world has. What is a unique perspective that you think AI, or how maybe Christians could use AI in a good way for the church? I know that's a kind of an interesting question to ponder, but I think as AI begins to go through that journey of deep learning and deep scanning and finding ways to process. But how do you think in some near future that Christians could use AI?
Wow. I was following you and like, oh, I think I know where he's going with this question, and then you took off. Like, whoa, where'd that come from?
That's generally that's kind of how I roll here on the podcast. I'll go straight, and then it just might be a Yui or just a hard left. Got to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let me think. I think when it comes to AI, there is a whole world of possibilities out there. The possibilities are almost infinite, it seems like. Yeah, so there's a lot of good and a lot of bad that I think could come from AI. I tend towards Elon, to have Elon Musk's perspective that AI could be the end of the world sort of thing, where I know there's a lot of people who say it can't do that. No, don't worry about it. But I think a lot of the good things, there's a lot of, and this isn't, I guess, specifically Christian, or like church related, but like somewhere where Christians could use it, I guess, is there's a lot of potential for like the medical field and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I think when I think of like medicine, I think of it kind of as a ministry, and I think a lot of the original hospitals were like came from like the Christian culture and trying to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like it's been secularized, but I think that's still something where Christians should, try to excel at and minister and help people. And so that's one way. And then I'm not sure how like you would use it in church.
It's a hard question.
Yeah. I feel like there is a way. Like I feel like there's endless possibilities, but
maybe for like translation or something,
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good idea that you could use right now, because most of the translation stuff is AI based. So
yeah, you can just instead of the King James version, you got the AI version. The NIV, the AI.
Yeah.
We punched, like they did those things like where you put a sentence into Google Translate it and you translate it to 40 like different languages and translate it back to English. And it's like a completely different sentence. I bet that's what you would get.
It's a bunch of
Complete
emojis.
Nonsense.
Like instead of Jesus swept, it'd be like Jesus cried and slept and got food and came back and was happy, or like something.
All above.
Well, if you think about it, in a way, I guess churches are already using that, because on YouTube, how they have those, if they post their sermons to YouTube,
right?
There's like captions you can use, and
oh yeah,
if you dig a little deeper, there's like auto-translated captions, which is I just found that here recently. I was like, that's cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, those auto-generated captions always interest me. It's like watching a live stream, and they're getting most of the words right. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Phil, we answered your impossible question.
I didn't think it was impossible. So that's why I ask questions all the time, because maybe they're not impossible to some people.
That's right.
It's always fun, because I have a tendency of developing those questions around, just having those deep thinking moments. And it's just like, who do I ask these questions to? But Turner, you're always somebody that I can, talk to that.
Yeah, I love all deep questions.
Yeah. I think one of the things that was really cool in your response is one of the first things you said was you're a Christ follower. And I think that's a really important thing to bring up, because a lot of people, like I don't know what the movie was called, but a movie just recently came out, I think last year. And that was something that, the question is, who are you? What are you? And some people sometimes have that tendency of just being like, I am Phil, I work a 9-to-5 job. I, do this and X, all it is. But as Christians, we kind of sometimes have a tendency to forget, that we are Christ followers and how we develop in that. how important is it to you in doing your job, but also just, I know that you work with, you help out on Sundays and stuff like that, but like, how important is it for you to make sure you are maybe not just advocating, but making sure that you're clarifying that you are a Christ follower going into many positions in your life moving forward?
I think for me, it's I don't put a huge emphasis on like pushing that I'm a Christian, but I also like I want it to be obvious and apparent. And what I found, I don't remember who I was talking to here recently, but we were talking about witnessing, I think, and I think like witnessing and your testimony, like when I think about it, it's really scary. I'm like, how do you even like work that into a conversation or something? But I've been noticing here recently that like my life, while I'm like obviously like not the best at following Christ in every aspect of my life or being consistent all the time, my life has a lot of things that kind of revolve around Christ. Like I teach a Sunday school class, and we did those Bible musicals, went to Asbury, since it's a Christian college or university, and I play on the worship band, and just all these different things. When someone like asks me like who I am or what am I up to or what am I enjoying, like one of the things I'm really enjoying right now is the Sunday school class we're teaching. And so like when that comes up, then it's like, oh, like, you know, you go to church. And so then you have the opportunity to, you know, go deeper into a conversation or bring up what you're talking about in Sunday school class, because we just always talk about like what we're really interested in or what we're studying up on, and so that's always fun to talk about. Or you can just leave it at that and kind of give that opportunity to live out Christ, but with them, you know, explicitly knowing that you're a Christ follower. I don't know. I have maybe I'm wrong for this, but I have a pet peeve with the whole like just live like Christ and never like say anything. And maybe no one actually thinks that, but I feel like in the Bible we're called to be a little more forward. I don't think we're called to force things down people's throats by any means, but I think we are called to be a little more like vocal. I think there's a very thin balance, as there is in many things.
Well, I have two questions, and the first question or a filler question.
A Phil question.
You know, one of the things I think is, yeah. So this is why I have a hard time getting these questions out. Now, I've always been curious, Turner, about your, I think maybe not your motive, but kind of your journey with not drinking soda for such a long time. I just think it's such a fascinating thing. I think that's what kept me around as your friend for so long, was how long it would take you to break and drink soda. Because, you know, going through Asbury is like, you have Ale-8 thrown at you all the time. And like, you persevered your entire.
Dang. And the cafeteria is always stocked.
Yeah.
Soda fountain.
Yeah. So what is that? Like what made you want to start that? I know your dad kind of, you know, encouraged you in some fashion, but like just share about that journey and that process. Because personally, it fascinates me how you, like, in our society and our culture, you could go away from drinking soda for such a long time.
Yeah. So it's really funny that you bring that up. So I guess around like 12 or 13, I think it was, Dad told me how he quit drinking soda, and he hasn't gone back yet, but he quit it around like 11 or 12, I think. Mm-hmm. And his was like, you know, just like he wanted to be healthier, and so like, and soda's not healthy, so he dropped it. Or I guess it's really unhealthy. And so I was like, oh, I wonder how long I can go. You know, I thought I'd go. I mean, we didn't drink soda a whole lot. Like we didn't buy it at our house, but we'd drink it whenever we went to like someone's party or went to grandparents or something. And I thought I'd go like a couple months or a year or something. And then like every milestone I made it, I was like, well, like if I quit now, then then I've lost all this time. So it just kept going and going. And I was like, I don't really want to go the rest of my life without drinking soda or trying the new ones. Cause I don't think I'd tried Dr. Pepper. I couldn't remember having Dr. Pepper. And then there's like all these new specialty sodas that I never heard of. So I was like, you know what? When I get married, I'm going to do it. And which seems like a really random time, but I just thought like, that's a big life milestone or whatever. A lot of other things change. And so I thought it'd be kind of funny to do it then. And so we had, on my wedding night, LA and Kelly had bought some other sodas that she wanted me to try, which was kind of funny. It's like I feel like whenever I tell this story, people are like super awkward about it, but it's really, really funny. And like some people would ask me like why I don't, and I joke like, oh, it's against my religion because it's ridiculous. And so I said that to someone, and they thought I was serious, and so they like asked someone if I could eat chocolate since chocolate has caffeine. And anyways, it was funny.
That's funny. So do you, since that night, what is your soda life like?
It's I don't drink a lot of soda. I've had a couple of things throughout the past year. I think I tried some Big K, and that was really good, and I had a couple of those. And I found out, I always thought I liked Pepsi over Coke, but since I started drinking soda again, I don't think I've had Pepsi, but I've had Coke, and I like it more than I remembered, and I love Orange Crush. I think I've had a couple L8s, but I mean, honestly, I haven't drank, like, it's like still like super rare that I'll drink soda. It's mostly water and milk and juice for me. So
okay, yeah. I mean, I'm similar with soda. We don't buy it, but if it's at like a restaurant or like if it's available, even at restaurants, I don't drink soda. But like at maybe like a party or something, or like if there's like Cokes out, I'm more likely to try one. But yeah, we don't buy it.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's just like if we buy it, we'll drink it all like in a couple days.
It's super unhealthy too. I think it's a good balance to like, enjoy it every once in a while. But for me, it's having it a special thing. Actually, just this morning I saw some meme on Facebook. I don't know how factual it is, but it had like all these drinks and then like the equivalency in donuts. And so like orange juice is like 3 donuts or something, and then it went up, and the like biggest one was Coca-Cola bottle was like 6 donuts.
Dang.
And then the caption at the top was like, would you eat 6 donuts or something? And then at the bottom it was like, honestly, what my takeaway from this is that donuts are way healthier than I thought. I was like, amen. I'd much rather have donuts.
It's funny the way that you experience sodas, kind of like parallel to the way a lot of people experience alcohol.
Yeah.
It's like they get married and then like they want to try all of these things that like they've never gotten to try.
Yeah.
It was funny seeing those different parallels.
Yeah, it's pretty similar, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, at least myself, I kind of treat alcohol and soda like the same way. Like we don't actively go and like buy it all the time, but like if it's like, it's more like on occasions. I mean, because both I just feel way better like not drinking them. Like sometimes drinking after soda I get like a stomach ache, or after drinking alcohol you get like, I just rather just feel better the next day instead of just spending a ton of money on all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think the question I was gonna ask earlier, the second question, I think I'm gonna save it for a little bit later. Once we get to a certain mark, I'll ask you, because I think it's gonna take a good amount of time. But I had the other question. Maybe I'll just go ahead and ask this question.
We're waiting.
Yeah. I think if anybody knows, like, who's listening to this and, saw your, Will Turner, and was like, oh, I gotta go check this video. I gotta check the video out. I gotta check, gotta listen to what they talk about. I think everybody's intrigued by your journey with Kelly, and you don't have to speak to every details, but I think everybody's intrigued by how disciplined and how dedicated you were to your love for Kelly and the love that you have for her. And if she's listening to this, like, I love her to death. She's awesome, and you two are so much fun to talk to and hang out. I miss you two a lot. But if you guys just want to, if you kind of just want to talk a little bit about what your story is from your perspective and how, like, I remember because I was there walking with you through this process, through a lot of things. But, I think for the listeners, it would be fun to kind of listen to kind of your perspective on, what led you through such a grueling, long, daunting task to get a girl.
Yeah. It's a long story. So I'm like, how do we narrow it in? So for those who don't know, Kelly and I and Phil all met at this Bible musical. And so the first year, I don't think many of us made really friends and didn't really get to know each other that year. Kelly doesn't remember me from that year, even though there's video proof.
I remember you as God's voice all the time.
Yeah. And so then the second year came around, and I guess the first interaction that she remembers is right before the musicals. I was hosting a dance at our church to like raise money for like Speed the Light, I think. And so I messaged like all the musical people on Facebook, and I was like, hey, there's this dance if you want to come. And she thought I was asking her out personally on a date to this dance. And then to her horror, Allie came in with another personal invite from me, and they're like, who's this creeper that we've never seen that invited both of us out on a date? So that put me a couple steps back, because when we came to the second year of the musicals, they were both, look, there's the creeper. So
nice.
Didn't start off on the right foot, but then we became friends, and we did academy at Asbury together, and grew closer there. And there, a couple years in, or maybe it was just the first year into college, there was a little bit of a fallout. And then we kind of worked through that, and but then it was really tough because she's going on dates with like different people every once in a while and I had made it to like the brother zone, and I even almost made it to the fake boyfriend zone to like ward off other people that she didn't want to date, which is like the worst zone ever. But then like the next part of it, is almost like kind of part of my testimony, I feel like, in that I remember there was when we were going through the rough time, Phil sat me down and he was like, I think it was something that your dad told you, that if you love something, you should like let it go, and if it loves you, it'll return, sort of thing. And so it was at the beginning of the summer. I was like, no way, dude. Like, I'm sticking in. And then like that summer went by, and we didn't, Kelly and I didn't have much contact, and it was like really awkward and stuff. And then so I was like, okay, I guess I'll just like move on, and but I'll still be like a friend. But I was kind of mad because I felt like I'd done a lot, and so I didn't really want to be friends. But I like tried to put my pride aside, and really through the whole process, like I feel like I learned a lot of patience, like relying on God, because like a lot of this, like I had a pretty bad attitude about it, but like I chose to put forward a good attitude because I felt like that was the right thing, because I don't think I was justified in my bad attitude. But anyways, at the end of that summer, we came back to school, and it was a little awkward. And then over that semester, we became friends again. And then, what was it? Then the cool part of the testimony kind of happened was, I guess I was praying about it a lot and like asking for God's will, but also asking like that his will would be my will, or I'm not sure how all that works out with faith, but and then Kelly's sister Allie and her mom were praying also because they wanted us to be together. And so one day I called Allie and kind of, there was a couple questions in it. I guess part of the question was, could we do this thing that seemed like a date, or would it like hurt our friendship again? That I could, if I could do it for Kelly. And then I guess there was another kind of like, or should I like just move on? Like, do you think this is ever going to happen? And so that night, I and a friend prayed, and they prayed and everything. And then 2 days later, I think it was, or the next day maybe, Allie mentioned it to Kelly, and Kelly got really mad and hung up on her. And then for whatever reason that night, I guess God was tugged on her heart, because she was like going back and forth about, I don't want to like him, I don't like him that way or whatever. And then, but then like by the end of the night, she decided to like open up her heart to possibly liking me, I guess. And so she took me out to, because she said she really enjoyed my company and stuff, but she just didn't like me that way, I guess. And so the next day she invited me to go to Subway and to just thank me for being such a good friend. And she said she kind of like pushed me away because she didn't want to give the impression that she liked me. But then she liked hanging out with me, and I was always like there to hang out with her. And she felt like she had been mean or unfair by pushing me away, I guess. And so, and then that day was, I guess, the day that she was like, I think I do like him. And then, you know, it was all uphill from there, I guess. But I see prayer as a huge role in it, and God's hand working in it, because it was crazy that, like, you know, after a couple people praying, like all together, everything changed. Not that like, you know, you can make someone love you by praying that they'll love you or something. I don't know how faith and free will and all that work out together, but I mean, yeah, I think God had a huge hand in like my perseverance and like seeking him through it. And then also like his timing, I think, was a big deal, because like I wanted it immediately, you know. When I first saw her in the musicals, I'm like, she's way out of my league. I'm never even gonna try. But yeah, I think God had a huge part of it. And so that's another thing that, like, going back to way early in the conversation about like sharing your walk with people, or making it apparent that you're a Christian. Like if someone asks how we met, like God is in like all of it. He was in us meeting through the Bible musicals. He was in us going to the same college and having longer opportunity to grow friendship. He was in it in like the tumbling ministry that we were a part of, which also gave us opportunity to grow together and do spiritual, like grow in our spiritual like walk together in a sense, even if it was just as friends. And then in ultimately in like softening her heart to like consider me. Yeah, God's played a huge role in it. And so if someone asks like how we met or how we're together, that's another opportunity for me to give like a testimony of our relationship and his work in it.
Wow. Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the last things that you said, actually, really, you know, you talked about, I'm just really intrigued by kind of what you said with, you know, it kind of was, she was just asking God for her, you know, just open her heart to the possibility, you know. And I think that's something that's a very interesting thing to pray about, you know, not just in general, but just like sometimes we want to pray for the exact same, like with the exact thing that we want. But it's interesting that just like God, if this is in your will, then I pray that you give me the heart for it to be a possibility. And I think that's a really cool thing. For I think that's really cool insight into kind of her story a little bit too. But yeah, dude, I loved being a part of it in some fashion, talking to you, helping you through the process. It's all about, trusting the process, man.
Yeah, Phil, you've been a part of everyone else's love story.
I know, dude. It's pretty awesome being the maybe all-time third
wheel Hall of Fame.
Third wheel.
Yeah, we gotta all get together and be a part of yours.
Yeah. Well, we'll see when it happens,
Just get every person that you've been a part of, their story. We'll get together, we'll create a committee, and we'll consult you and introduce you and everything.
Well, I mean, it's kind of great because, just from my perspective, like I have so many of you all to like rely on, and just ask questions and, ponder possibilities. But just like, I just know that I have you guys there, and you both are, you both got married last year, and you all are, Turner, you've hit your 1 year anniversary, in Austin. Your 1 year is coming up here soon, like a week from now, which is really exciting. And it's really cool for me to be able to cherish those memories that we had, processing how you're feeling, what you're going through to get to the point of, this and that. And just, it made me teary eyed when I was, up there with you guys getting married. So, but no, I'll definitely be coming to you guys at some point, but in its own time. But yeah, Turner, thank you again for answering those questions. I know it's always something that you probably get a lot, but I think secretly you like talking about
it. He's proud of the process. Gotta trust the process.
Yeah, I think you talked a little bit about perseverance, and that's something that we talked about obedience really, really on in the podcast, not in this one, but in our kind of journey. And I think that's honestly something that's always kind of stuck with us. We've done a pretty good job being obedient to kind of where things are leading in this journey, but perseverance is a very important factor in all Christians' life in some fashion, I believe. And I just think it's a really cool thing for you to talk about, persevering through those thoughts and those feelings and the journey of, should I stick around? Was there a moment or an experience that you had that was just allowed you to understand that perseverance that you had in that situation was worth it?
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you say that again, or sum up with that?
So I'm asking, is there like a moment or an experience that you had that really made that perseverance worth it? Like not just the end goal, but just like something in the moment. Because I think sometimes people use the end goal as what they are aspiring for, as the objective and as the goal, but sometimes you need a little bit of motivation in the process. And so what was that during the time that you were going through the process with Kelly that you're like, this is worth it?
Oh man. I don't know how to answer, because like my go-to is like, I mean, our wedding day was really big, or the moment that she took me to Subway and that was a lot of fun. But I guess, I mean, there were a lot of times that I wanted to quit or whatever. But I think just like simply like hanging out with her as a friend, it was like this is who I want to spend the rest of my life with, sort of thing. And I think we work really well together. And like, sure, there's other people that I really enjoyed their company, but I felt like in some ways, like Kelly was like what I needed, because she like challenged me. She challenged me in my walk with Christ and other areas of my life to like do better. Like honestly, I think a lot of my grades are better because I hung out with her, and she has like such a great work ethic. So there are like a lot of benefits just from being friends, that it was like, yeah, this is worth it. And earlier I said something about like maybe Kelly feeling like she had been mean to me, and I don't want to paint a bad picture of her because she's awesome. And but yeah, I think like just seeing like what a treasure prize she is was part of the perseverance, and like the benefit that different areas of my life would get. Like she's super social, and so like she pushes me to hang out with people more and talk to new people more, and she pushes me with my walk with Christ. And so so I think there were a lot of ups, and things that like I wanted, that were already, that I was already receiving the benefits of, kind of just from our friendship. So yeah.
It's good. I appreciate
Great.
that.
Yeah, those are great lessons about perseverance and patience, something that you don't always get to see in today's modern day love stories. It's like if you don't get what you want right now, then a lot of people just move on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a big problem with our society, and a lot, not to like paint a generation in a bad light, but like everyone talks about like the instant gratification, like
Yeah.
or entitlement and stuff like that. And I think that is a big problem. And I think it's an even bigger problem when it enters into our relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. And it carries over a lot of people. A lot of people's like, their prayer life and everything. They pray for something. They want something the next day. They're like, you feel like God should be quicker than Amazon.
That's true. Actually, that brings up a question that I wanted to ask you all, if that's allowed.
I guess
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
allow it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this kind of goes back to the previous thing a little bit. Like I was praying for something that I wanted, but then like I didn't know if it was part of God's will or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like, how do you all think that you can hear God's voice? Because I feel like that's something that a lot of Christians struggle with, and that like, and like even me, it's like, I feel like I've seen God's hand working in my life, and like, and in a sense, like hear His direction by like
Yeah.
following His leading. But when it comes to like hearing Him on specific things, I felt like it's always been like, shooting in the dark. That's the term.
Mm.
You guys
Yeah.
have any insight?
Yeah, I could definitely like think of some different examples where I've had questions in my head or questions about life or some decisions I had to make where I heard like a clear direction or a clear.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of the time it comes through, um, like if I'm at church, I'll hear it through a message or even
Mm-hmm.
through like meditation time, praying and just like letting my mind be clear of like distractions and then just allowing God to kind of help me like analyze and break things down.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times I feel like it's when I'm actively searching, whether I'm at church or whether I'm reading, and I'll just hear something on like the the pastor will say like that makes perfect sense. Like I told this story, on one of our first second episodes about money. We're
Mm-hmm.
like had questions about money and like whether or not we should tithe, even though that like we were living on a tight budget and that month wasn't going to make sense to give away 10% of our money. And then I heard this like the next day, pastor broke it down, talked about how like even when you have nothing, giving what you have, like, and just like stuff like that was like a clear example of like, all right, God's telling us clearly that this is important to him,
Mm-hmm.
so let's do it.
Yeah.
You feel?
Yeah. Yeah. Austin, I remember that story. That's a really good story. Yeah, I was just thinking about how there's just I had some really fun experiences in Australia with a wonderful community there that I admire a lot because it's not anything that I was used to going into the situation or going into Australia. Um, but shout out to a lot of those folks who hopefully are listening to this podcast.
Hey.
But I learned a lot about kind of the experience, the experiential parts of Christ. And I can't explain it to the full extent, because it's not that I haven't experienced it since, but it's really just, it's a very moment by moment kind of experience that I have. And what I mean by that is it's such a release of stress. It's moments of just peace, and I do find that a lot in worship. I think that's probably the position that I find myself quite often experiencing, kind of that call. And it's not so much the situation; it's kind of like the aftermath. And what I mean by that is, if I'm stressed about something, if I'm thinking about something, or if I'm internalizing things, I'm a big thinker. I think a lot. And so I'll sometimes overthink things, and I just try my best to get to a place where I can be clear. And I find that clarity in worship and in prayer, in reading. And I think that's something that's really, really important. But the intriguing thing is, during that time I was reading a book by John Piper, and John Piper talks about you need to learn to be a part of the Spirit, but also understand truth of the Spirit. And I think that's something that's a combo that's really tough to balance at times, because you kind of have people who just, just stick with one side, and that's their only side. But if you can really find a position where you balance both, I think that's where I've tried to recently see God most, but not just most, but best. And I think that's something that's really good for me, primarily just because I think that is helping me clarify a lot of the uncertainties in life moving forward. So I don't know. I think that's a great question. I would just say, in worship, and just being able to process, that moment in that prayer. So yeah, maybe a similar question, similar answer, but I think it's a good
sense.
Good question.
If it works, it works.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I don't know how specific God's plan is for everyone's life, but I feel like sometimes, or maybe a lot of times, there isn't a specific will that God has, and that he's okay with multiple different routes.
Except for you. I had to do it. I'm sorry. You're the will for him.
But yeah, God's will. But I think sometimes God doesn't have a specific way, and so I feel like it can be really hard for someone who's trying to hear God's voice, and maybe he's being silent about it because he's okay with either option or multiple options. Yeah, so maybe it's not always a listening issue. It's just God's open.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really really funny about doing this podcast with you guys is that anytime that Turner and I kind of get on those kind of discussions, it's we can't just block out 30 minutes and just catch up. It's generally okay, let's talk for 2.5 hours, because we get on those and we kind of think about it, and so that's a good question, but. You sparked some intriguing thoughts in my head, because I think as Christians you have to learn to develop and mature your relationship with Christ, or in God, and I think that's such an important thing, because Austin responded different than I did, and so understanding that each person's will is different, and that journey is different, is very important. So it's not a one-way fix for everybody. But I think, there's so many layers to God's truth and his Spirit that he's able to accommodate to what fits you best, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I think that's a really great question, but it certainly leads to a deeper discussion. that maybe we can get to at a later time. But that's good. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, we are rounding out the hour crazily. It's gone by pretty quick.
Yeah, it has.
But I wanted to leave a little time to ask the staple question of the podcast. As the Brotherhood Project, I feel like I'm always like doing an ad read when I do. As the Brotherhood Project, we are here to promote, good brotherhood and stewardship towards our peers and each other, and creating an environment where guys can have entertaining, content, but also fulfilling and uplifting content. So we like to ask this question with every guest. I don't know if Phil has filled you in on the question, but you have experience being a brother, whether it's biologically or through your ministry and your friendships. But to you, what does it mean to be a good brother?
I think a big part of it, well, when you say a brother, I'm sorry to ask for clarification, but are you talking about like within the body of Christ, like that kind of brother?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think first and foremost is like one's relationship with Christ and like their walk, because I believe we're ambassadors of Christ and the reflection of Christ, and I feel like myself included, a lot of Christians like to talk the talk but not walk the walk. And when like the age-old example is like, you're driving and then you get road rage, and it's like, would Christ do that sort of thing? And I feel like allowing Christ and like working with him to like change ourselves so that we bear the fruit of the Spirit more. Like one of the ways you tell that someone has faith is like through their fruit, or that's how you know who someone is their fruit. And I think that would have a huge impact on like our relationships in our world if like Christians or Christian men, brothers, were Christ to everyone in their lives.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh. Yeah, that's good. That's certainly a good response, and I think we need to be good advocates and of how we respond to things, and I think right now is a really good example with things going on in our culture, in our society, and as Christians we need to learn to really speak up. And I mean, I think that's something that like I'm learning to develop and grow in, and I'm looking forward to that journey. But that's certainly a good response.
For sure. Well, let's see, we're about, I stopped the timer because I was asking that question. I knew it was gonna but we are rounding out this episode. Is there any last questions that you have, Phil or Will?
I don't have any questions. I think if I do, I'll probably just call or text. Because I know that like we could do like 3 more podcasts just through discussion, and I think that would be great. But no, again, it was a pleasure to have you on, Turner. I know you're kind of eager to be on, and I enjoy having you on. You never know, we could always have a monthly theologian discussion. But it was good to have you on. It was good to have you on.
Yeah, it was an honor. Thank you all so much. I really enjoyed it. I love just, talking and catching up.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you as well for hopping on here. And we're going to round things out. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Catch us every Monday for the Brotherhood Project once a week. Find us on Facebook, where you can see all the updates, all the videos, the clips, everything that we put on there, as well as a link to the full show that will go on YouTube for video form. All of that is on Facebook. And that's the only place where you can kind of talk to us about the show and give us your thoughts, your notes, your questions, your answers, whatever you got. Phil, enjoy your vacation. Have a good time in Florida. Will, have a good rest of your day. Yeah, get roast. Wear your sunscreen. But yeah, until next week, we'll see you guys.
Gotta start from the bottom.